Good afternoon, fellow safarians, and welcome to, like I said earlier, a very hot, very bright, sunny Djuma Game Reserve. It is really very warm this afternoon, and it promises to be a good afternoon. At least there's no clouds in the sky, and so we probably have a much drier afternoon than we did this morning. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got VM the Wildebeest, and this is coming to you live all the way, like I say, from South Africa, which means that it is interactive, so you can use hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can use the YouTube chat to get hold of us. Right, now, because it's so warm this afternoon, I think what we're going to do is we're going to probably do a spot of birding. A lot of the birds are hidden in the shade at the moment, trying to just stay out of this blistering heat. It's about 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius in the shade, so it is very warm in the shade even, and the sun it's even worse. So a lot of birds will be there, and we're also going to go and try and check some of the water holes in the hope that some of our big pachyderm friends like the elephants are down at the water holes, as well as maybe, even if we're lucky, a herd of buffalo or something like that. That would be quite nice to see. I got a report this morning of a herd of 1,000 buffalo in the Sabi sands, just south, way down south actually, between sort of Sabi and Lion sands. But that is very encouraging news. If there's a herd of over 1,000 down that way, hopefully some of them will start heading up and follow north, and we'll start to see some of them up here. So we're going to do water hole patrol first, and then a little bit later, when it gets a bit cooler, we're going to go and try and follow up on our Leopard trifecta from this morning and see if Shadow and Cub and Hosana are still hanging around Treehouse Dam. I would imagine with the heat that is out today and the clouds breaking fairly early this morning, that one of them at least will be lying up at Treehouse Dam and probably having a bit of a rest there. I would imagine maybe Shadow and Cub might have moved off and Hosana will be the one at Treehouse Dam, but you never know. Could maybe see all three of them. We know Hosana has had this habit of following females around recently, and so Tundi seems to have not provided over the last 2 days, and so he's now decided Shadow will be the best one. Also, I'm going to try my very best this afternoon to be able to distinguish a Nyala from an Impala, because I do have to apologize, and as Byron has so nicely pointed out over the last 2 days, that Shadow's kill was an Impala and not a Nyala. I said it was a Nyala in the morning, so now I'm going to try and spend my drive figuring out exactly what a Nyala is and what an Impala is and how to tell the difference. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I do know the difference. It was just there was quite a lot of glare, and to be honest, thought it was an Nyala, and well, it turned out to be an Impala, and that's the way it goes. So we'll just try and kind of set the record straight today, and so that Byron can get off my back, because he's all over me about it, and he keeps pointing at Nyala in camp and telling me that's what they look like. So I'm going to try and figure that out so that he can stop giving me a hard time. The old Byron Harry Potter Sorrel. So I've started calling him Byron Harry Potter Sorrel because when he puts his glasses on to be able to see in the distance, because he is getting a little bit older now and a few grey hairs are starting to show, and so he needs his glasses to be able to see, and he looks just like Harry Potter, except that I feel like we need to get more rounded glasses for him. His glasses at the moment are a little bit too square, but maybe with Byron with some nice rounded glasses, and then we can draw a little lightning bolt on his head, will be a perfect Harry Potter stand-in, and maybe a little bit more muscular than Harry Potter is, but well, he'll still do the job, I think. So that's what we're going to probably try and get Byron to do. Maybe before he leaves, I'll be able to convince him to do a Harry Potter look-alike. We'll even get a robe for him. Now, to start off my quest to be able to tell the difference between Nyala and Impalas, we've managed to find an Impala. So you see, I can tell the difference between them. There is a rather heavily pregnant female Impala. We're going to start seeing more and more of this, and in fact, it's almost time to start seeing the little lambs, which is super exciting. Hopefully, we're going to have some lambs coming out in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. We should be the earliest ones, and maybe they'll be a bit later this year. We'll have to just see and let time tell. Now, talking about exciting things and things that are happening, I believe Tayla McCurdy is out and about in the Masai Mara. I see she's been wallowing through mud during the day, so I'm sure she's got lots of stories and wants to say hello.
Hello everybody, welcome back of course to another wonderful adventure out here in the bush. We've got some lions sitting up in a bit of a quarry, so I think it is. It's filled up with lots of water. There's, you can see quite a few little heads popping up here and there, and I'm sure you can hear the wind straight away. The wind has all of a sudden picked up quite heavily, and you all know what that means. good hunting weather for this pride of lions, and options they have. My name is Tayla, and on camera with me today is Sebastian, and we're still in the Masai Mara National Reserve. We've been here pretty much all day. We went back to have a quick shower, freshen up, and we're out here again. But remember, this is live, this is interactive, and of course you can talk to us. You can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can chat to us via YouTube. Now, I want to show you all the options that the lion has. Sebastian can choose which side he wants to start on. What do you think, Seb?
Left, to the left.
Should we go left? To the left, to the left. little Beyonce to start the afternoon off. Now, I'm hoping that the lions do go to the left, because the hills are filled with wildebeest. There's wildebeest everywhere, and they're looking hungry. And they are very well unaware of the fact that there are pride of lions just sitting probably about maybe a mile and a half away or so. So it's not too far away. And we all know how quickly lions can travel. And for them, that's really absolutely nothing, especially when they've got the wind and hopefully the cover of darkness in their favor. It would be nice if they gave us an afternoon hunt in the golden light, but maybe I'm asking a little bit too much. I'm going to go forward so we can see how many lions are actually here. Let's give this a bash. So there are also pretty much the exact same amount of wildebeest that are on that side, covering those hills on that side. But if they go that way, they're not going to have the wind in their favor, and that's a problem. Just going to go a little bit further forward, and then I'm going to turn my nose in. I'm going to drop down like this, and then I'm going to reverse again. Is that okay, Seb?
Yeah.
Cool. Just, whoop, there we go. So you can see lots of water, a nice little drinking spot too. There's probably lots of frogs, maybe even a little crocodile moving around in there, but the lions don't look like they're interested in having a drink. So I think I know this pride of lions. I think I've done a Facebook Live on them, in fact, where they marched through a herd of zebra, topi and wildebeest not too far away from the Purungat Bridge. And to my understanding, I think it was 3 adult lionesses and then 3 or 4 sub-adults. I can only count 1, 2, 3 sub-adults. Maybe it was 3 sub-adults, but maybe some of you can remember that. And if you do remember, that sighting was shortly just after a drive had actually finished. And how was that bonus extra? You can hashtag Safari Live and tell me if I was correct, if it was 3 lionesses and 3 sub-adults. I think it was. So that's quite cool, and of course very nice to see. It's still a bit warm though, so I'm not expecting anything just yet. They look very cozy, curled up, and just enjoying a bit of a rest, watching the cars go by. You might hear a vehicle driving past us. Off they go. How lovely is this? I'm really enjoying this. So, I mean, you can see how curious some of the youngsters are. There's just one, and I'm trying to work out if it's a boy or a girl, just to the left, that one that's sitting up, and keeps looking over to the left too. So, no, not that one's old enough to be making any decisions about where they're going to go and hunt. They'll really just be observing, and more than anything annoying the adults when they're trying to hunt successfully. Oh my goodness, Seb, look here. There's a herd of wildebeest even closer. That's quite cool. Hang on, we've just discovered now they might not have to go in a mile and a half. They might be able to just go about 200 meters away, because there's a small pocket of wildebeest. They're just sitting down in the grass between those 2 termite mounds. They look like termite mounds. They're very camouflaged. I think they're sitting down, but we'll have a look now. There we go. You spot on. You're on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 wildebeest. Just sitting off in the distance, sitting low down in the grass, trying to keep out of the wind. And they also don't know that the lions are here. But the lions would have to go all the way on the right hand side and then move back up towards the north. So if they go straight towards them now, their scent is going to blow directly at them, and that's exactly what they don't want. So let's hope that they use their brains a little bit and the youngsters don't get too excited and ruin it for the adults. But it's a very important time for those sub-adult lions, and this is when, like I said, they are going to start partaking. You know, when the adults start running, they're not going to really be sitting behind anymore. You'll find that they'll probably run after, well, behind the adults as they chase down their prey. Keep our fingers crossed for a little bit later. Come on, lions, are you going to wake up now? No, you see, I'm in 2 minds whether to leave them or not, and the reason why I'm in 2 minds is because there's been so many crossings happening I'm so sorry, Megan. Can I please have that question again? The wind was just blowing a little bit too strong into my ear, and I didn't get the whole thing. Ah, there we go. That's the part I missed. Now, Philip, you're wondering if the prey to predator ratio would be about 500 to 1. Well, I'm not going to dispute that. It sounds about right, especially if those lions do go charging into those herds of wildebeest. I suspect, besides the 7 or 8 that we saw just behind us, the ones that are on the hills, and I've just seen a whole lot more. Can you see those ones? Or is it too far around the corner? There's actually wildebeest everywhere now. Okay, so you won't get them just the way that I position. Unfortunately, I've just seen some more popping up. Now they're surrounded by wildebeest, but on varying sort of distances. That group, actually to the right of these lions, you can't see them, so I'm so sorry, we'll reposition in a little bit. That's probably going to be their best option now, because there's a whole bunch more, and if they can get in there and cause a frenzy, cause a panic, that's the best thing, because someone's going to make a mistake, and then the lionesses can catch some dinner. So definitely some exciting prospects for a little bit later this afternoon. Now, sorry, there's a bit of breakup, but I think it was a question from Robert about whether the wildebeest could smell the lions. Most certainly, if they were downwind of the lions, then yes, they would. But this weather is perfect for lions to hunt in. We all know how much noise is being created by the wind. You can probably hear it, so that helps the lions be able to sort of move a lot quicker towards their prey rather than having to crawl on their bellies and get as close as they can. They don't have to conceal themselves at much. And then also, of course, their scent will be hidden. So the two most important things. The only thing that they don't really have in their favor is the sun. So the lions will actually be walking towards the sun. The wildebeest are northwest. No, westish. Okay, let's go with west because it's so minor. My goodness, I'm so pedantic sometimes. Anyway, so they have to walk straight towards the sun, but I don't think that's too much to worry about, but sometimes that helps as well. We use that as a technique when we're walking, especially if you're particularly close to an animal. Try and have the wind and the sun in your favor, and the big cats will do exactly the same thing. So Tristan said that he was doing a waterhole patrol, and I thought that Karma was going to get him today because he was teasing Byron about his spectacles, but it seems as though Tristan has turned it around and he's got something fantastic to show you.
Well, we do have fantastic things to show you. We've come to Treehouse Dam to do our time lapse, and there's some beautiful banded groundlings that are on some of the small little plants that grow out of Treehouse Dam, and they sit on these, and this is where they'll rest and let their wings dry, and before they then start to fly around and breed with one another. So there'll be quite a few of them around, but aren't they beautiful? They've got these black lines on their wings that give them their sort of appearance and identifying features, and the reflection in Treehouse as well. You can see what a still afternoon it is. It is baking hot and there is no wind, and that means that the dragonflies will be in full force. They'll be going all over the show trying to breed with one another and lay their eggs. But across the waterhole, in the shade of Treehouse Dam, is a very, very, very sleepy kitty, and there lies Hosana. You can see him just in the shade there. He's absolutely flat and sleeping. So we did our time lapse, which requires us actually to get out of the car, and Hosana basically popped his head up, looked at us for about all of 1 second, and then just put his head down, and VM and I had a whole conversation around, well, not too far from the car as we did the time lapse, and he did not even care one bit. I think he's a hot kitty. You can see how much he's breathing, and so he's found himself the perfect place just to have a really good rest. I don't think we're going to spend all afternoon with Hosana now. I want to try and go and check some of the other water holes around while he's still very, very sleepy, and come back to him a little bit later. But what I want to do before we do that is just go around to the other side, because we are way away from where he is, so I would prefer just to go and kind of spend some time closer to him, and we'll do probably maybe do about half an hour with him now and just see if he gets up to anything, and if nothing, well then we're going to carry on and try and, like I say, go and find some ellies at some of the other water holes just to check if there isn't any sign of them around, and then we'll come back to Hosana. With the heat that we've got this afternoon, I highly doubt that Hosana is going to be anywhere. He's going to lie there, he's going to sleep, and he's going to wait for the sun to come down. It's much like what we saw a few days ago when he was lying next to that little mud wallow after he stole that kill from Tundi, or maybe not stole the kill, but fed a bit off that kill from Tundi. He was very tired and he only woke up right at the end of the afternoon, and it'll be a very similar occurrence today with him. He's been here most of the day, so there would have been things like impalas and steenbok and dike and those kind of things that would have come down already, but because he's such a full cat, he's definitely not going to be too concerned about food. He's more just going to be trying to just stay nice and cool in this horribly hot weather. So we'll just come and spend a little bit of time with him now, because it's always nice to have a leopard, and we've been so spoilt with Hosana sightings of late, and he's actually looking very dopey right now. He's got his tongue sticking out because he's so hot. Hosana, put your tongue away. You can see he really is cooking. He's breathing heavily, and there's that tongue sticking out. As you can see, he's kind of almost as if to say, it's too hot, I can't deal with this. It's a shock to the system after a coolish winter, and so the tongue is out and he's absolutely sleepy. And I was saying to Viam, there's not many places in the world where you would be able to view a leopard, get out on foot, not too far from him, and he'll just pass out and sleep exactly like he is now and not worry about us at all. He really wasn't perturbed by our presence whatsoever. He was just, well, there's another person there and that's okay. So he is probably got to be one of the most relaxed individuals that I've seen on foot, particularly of male leopards. Male leopards generally are a little bit more kind of wary of things on foot. I've never really had many relaxed male leopards in my time. The females seem to be okay, but male leopards not so much. But this guy is just absolutely super chilled with us. He doesn't worry about us at all, which is cool. So it's such a pleasure to actually be able to spend time with a cat like this, and to be able to follow them and to have as many sightings as we've had recently is very special. Roshni and Jennifer, you both commenting on how cute he looks at the moment. Well, I don't know if cute, I suppose, is one way of looking at it. He almost looks a bit dopey, doesn't he, with his kind of tongue out. But one thing he does look is hot. He doesn't look like he's very comfortable at all, and that's what happens, Hosana, when you steal carcasses from other leopards and you eat like a glutton, is that this is what happens in the summer months, is that he'll be hot and full and uncomfortable. But once that sun goes down, then you'll find he'll wake up a little bit, and we'll see much like what we saw the other day, where he's going to groom himself. And also the thing is around sunset will be a good time to be at Treehouse Dam, because the reason for that is that that's going to attract all kinds of animals to come down and drink, and so hopefully things like impalas will come down, and that will stimulate him to get up and start moving towards the darker hours, and maybe we potentially get to see him in one of those trademark hunts that we've been seeing from Hosana around the waterholes over the last month. So hopefully today will be the day that he would be successful as well. But given that he's so full, I don't know if hunting's going to be on the cards. Maybe it will be. He's really kind of kept that round belly over the last few weeks, and so it'll be good if he does do a bit of hunting later in the day. But for now, I think it's all about sleeping and resting and taking it as easy as possible. Shame, my boy, is it hot out there? At least there's a breeze blowing today, so that will help. Romit, so leopards won't use their tongue to taste the air. They're not like snakes in that their sensory cells are on the tongue. What leopards have is they have a organ in the roof of the mouth called the organ of Jacobson. And so what a leopard does is it will often sniff around that area, and it will open its mouth and pull that scent over that organ of Jacobson, and that organ of Jacobson is what's going to analyze the scent in the air, on the ground, or wherever, let's say, another leopard has defecated, and that will be able to tell that leopard, okay, there is another leopard here, it's a male, it's a female, it's a dominant male, it's a female, it's an estrus, and they'll be able to work out their environment of what the other leopards are doing in their area. In terms of picking up other predators and prey animals, most of that is done by either a sense of hearing, sense of sight, or they might pick up a smell somewhere in the wind. They might pick up the scent of an approaching animal, and that will then give them an idea. But they're not using their tongue to taste the air like a snake would. It's a very different system for leopards. They have a very developed nasal structure, and that allows them to be able to analyze scent just from smelling from the nose itself. They don't need the tongue to aid in that process at all. The reason why his tongue is out at the moment like this is you probably find with the breeze that is blowing that I was talking about earlier, there's a little bit of a breeze going across, and so he's been panting, and when they pant, they try and sometimes open their mouth, and that just helps to aid with the cooling of the tongue, and the reason they do that is that they're passing air over it. There's evaporation of moisture on the tongue itself, which causes the blood in the tongue to cool down and sends that cooler blood back into the body. Now, if his tongue is out with a bit of a breeze blowing, that's basically happening for him without him having to actually sit with his mouth open and pant away. He can lie down like that, and that's happening just by the breeze itself. So it's almost a lazy panting that he's doing at the moment by keeping his tongue out and open. You also find that his mouth is slightly open at the moment as he breathes quite quickly, just to try and keep that body temperature down as much as possible. If they didn't have the system, you would find that cats, big cats in particular, things like leopard and lions and cheetah that occur in these hot environments, would not be able to survive. They've got thick fur coats, and that means that they get a very, very high buildup of body temperature, and so the panting is vitally important, as well as water, for these animals to be able to survive. So you can see he's using every technique he can. He's panting, he's got shade, he's close to a water hole. It's all the combinations that he needs in order to keep himself, one, hydrated, and two, his body temperature down in order to survive. So he's being a very clever cat, and he's doing a sterling effort at it at the moment, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the sum total of Hosana's activity until we get much later in the afternoon and it gets much cooler. Look at the size of his paws. He's getting big, old Hosana. It's amazing actually to watch him and just to see him and spend time with him. Like I was saying just now, he's probably got to be one of the most relaxed male leopards I've ever spent time around. Tumba is in no way the same as Hosana on foot. So you find that Tumba generally runs a little bit from you on foot, whereas Hosana, he just doesn't seem to care at all. He's pretty comfortable with us as a vehicle. You can see I drove all the way around, and the entire time I drove around here and parked in this distance, and we are quite close to Hosana at the moment. I mean, he's no more than probably 15 meters from us. He hasn't even opened his eyes once, so he's gone completely used to us, and it's an absolute treat to have a male like that. And hopefully, I'm really hoping that either one of these two boys does end up staying here, because we've put a lot of time and a lot of hours into them, and it's been a privilege to watch them grow, but it's also it's allowed us to habituate them. And that means that we've got a situation where we get to see them for long periods of time. So hopefully they will end up staying in our area. Now, I believe Brent Leo Smith is also out and about today, but he's actually not in a vehicle. He's in the studio with the river cams, and I believe he has a crossing of the Wildebeest over the Mara River.
Well, guys, you've just missed a wildebeest crossing. One young got absolutely annihilated by a monster croc in the middle. We can just see some rolling and tumbling there. There were only about 5 or 6 wildebeest. One made it across to the other side. The others ran back to the bank. They've been up and down the bank for the last 15 minutes. Let's see if we can find where the others have run off to. There we go. So they were halfway through the river when that crocodile managed to grab hold of one of those wildebeest. And welcome to the river cams. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and for once I will also not only be narrating, but I shall be your camera operator. So I do apologize if anything bad happens on the camera. I think those wildebeest still want to cross. It looks like they're heading towards main north now. So let's cross onto the main north camera, please. There we go. They've been up and down. They look absolutely desperate to cross. Unfortunately, the sub-adult that was with them, there were 5 in total. 1 made it across. 1 got eaten by the crocodiles. And these 3 look like they might try attempt to cross at main north. Now, I do apologize for the slight sort of freeze frames every second, but we are bringing to you this live through incredible technology from our hidden remote cameras on the banks of the Mara River, so as we don't impede or interfere with any of the natural behavior of the wildebeest. So it looks like they're going to attempt to cross at main north now. Hi, Riti. Riti says the crocodiles are getting very good meals during the migration. Indeed they are. And for the bigger crocs, they will only really feed during the migration, and for the rest of the year, they sort of live off their fat stores. It's not to say they won't eat the odd catfish and whatnot that comes past them, but they do tend to gorge themselves at this time of the year. Oh, no, it's decided. I think that they saw a crocodile there, and it looks like they're going to move away from the river again. And not much else happening at cul-de-sac today. We haven't even seen an animal on there apart from the resident hippo and the odd crocodilian in the water. Now remember, if you want to ask any of us questions about what's happening out here in the Masai Mara, #SafariLive on Twitter is the best. And it looks like the wildebeest are now leaving the edge of the river. Hi James. James is wondering, with the random storms, how high can the river get? James, it can get very, very high. And if let's have a look. Let's jump back onto main south camera, please. So there we go. Now you can see how high the river can get. Let's zoom into the other side there. Whee! So you can see from the grasses, so when the Mara River is really high, it'll get to the top of those little banks there. So probably another 1.5 to 2 meters deeper than it is at this very moment. And of course, when the river becomes very, very high, we will actually take down these cameras so they don't go swim all the way to Lake Victoria. Okay guys, well, our wildebeest have decided it's not time to cross, but I'll be here and I'll be watching like a spy every single camera we have. But in the meantime, let's go back to Tayla with some lions in very windy conditions.
They are in very windy conditions. If only you could see my ponytail blowing around at the moment. Are you coming back? Oh no, now it better blow. It's not blowing very hard, is it? My bad. But it is, I promise you. When I stick my head out and demonstrate, you can use my hair as a windsock in terms of what direction the wind is blowing. Right, so our lions are still absolutely fast asleep. Every now and then the odd head is popping up, just scanning around them, but the wildebeest is slowly coming closer. And I reckon if we're just patient enough, and I must be honest, I have not played the patience game with lions for a very long time. I've actually been lucky. I'm not the most patient person. I try my hardest. It's something I need to work on. I'm pretty good at sitting with leopards though, but lions, still trying to work on that though. We'll get there. Now there's a question from Tony, and it is, do lions ever use their scent to distract prey? Maybe. You know what I have seen, Tony, is lions using themselves as distraction to the herd. So what they'll do is, like when you have a big pride of lions, you'll have one that will go off and walk away from the rest of the lions and try and get behind the wildebeest or whatever animal they're going after, and literally just show themselves, just go, oh hi, I'm here, I'm a distraction, everybody look at me, you know, jumping up and down, doing handstands and cartwheels, and then maybe they get a fright and then they run in the opposite direction and the rest of the pride is waiting in the grass. So they will do that. Whether they would use their scent though, I suppose yes. I suppose then they would be using the sight and their smell, because they'd be able to smell them as well. Put two and two together. Come on, lions, wake up. And you see there's a bit of shuffling, starting to cool down now. It's going to get dark quite quickly because there's quite a few clouds out and about. So we might get a little bit of golden light today, maybe just a smidgen. We have to also wait for that, of course. I hope we do, because I think we could get some really nice silhouetted shots, hey, Seb? Yeah. Of these cats up on this ridge, and I think that could be beautiful. Now, as we're looking at these lions, it's a mix of females and sub-adults. It's a bit difficult to tell who's who, isn't it? And Sophie, you were wondering, how would you tell how old a lion is? Now, it comes with experience and just seeing lions on a regular basis and watching them grow up and, you know, associating, knowing that those cubs are 2 months old because we saw them when they had their eyes closed and you know, that type of thing. It's hard. You can see this one that we're looking at now is covered in very prominent spots, so that's a way that you could age lions. But again, most of us have all seen adult lions with spots still on them. They do tend to fade. Sometimes they completely disappear, sometimes they don't. Then you can also look at their noses. So their noses will be quite pink when they're young and tend to darken with age. But again, this is more of just a guideline, because our very own Shadow has got a very pink nose, and she's not a young leopard. And I've seen lionesses that are fully grown and right, you know, towards the end of their lifespan with very pink noses. So it's quite tough. And then, of course, the size. I suppose you can go with the height. With youngsters, with males, you can look at how their mane is starting to develop. But that's all got to do with genetics. So, you know, if you don't maybe have as much testosterone as a different male does, maybe your mane is going to grow a little bit slower. So I would put it down to a combination of the things I've just mentioned, and as well as experience. That's the easiest. So I would guess that these sub-adults are anywhere between a year and a year and a half old now, somewhere in between there. And I think there were 2 males and 1 female out of the youngsters. I'm just trying to remember. I actually tried to search for that live broadcast we did on them oh my goodness, it was such a long time ago, and we've done so many amazing things since then. It's actually proving a little bit difficult to find it, but it's okay. We'll just wait for them to get up and move around, and then we can, well, tell like that. But you see, that one over there looks like a girl, just the look on her face, but I could be completely mistaken. She could just be a very pretty male, but I don't really see too much chest hair going on over there. No, we're looking at lions. We see lions, well, all over Africa, and we're very lucky, of course, to see so many in the Sabi sand too. And here it's even better because you see so many different prides. It's quite exciting. And there was a question from Omar wondering if there were differences between the lions that we see in South Africa versus the lions we see here. And the answer to that is no. They're still in the same species of lion. They're still Panthera leo. They're exactly the same. The only thing I've noticed is that the lionesses here are massive. They really are big and so strong. And a couple of you have also noticed this. And this youngster, you can see it's caught her attention. It's just because they are the wildebeest, the 7 or 8 wildebeest that were behind us have stood up, but they're not coming in this direction just yet. They're just having a little look around. And by nature, being so young and curious, ears pricked up and going, that is going to be very tasty a little bit later. Well, I'm sure that's what she's dreaming about at the moment, but she's going to have to keep on dreaming because, well, mom and aunties are not up just yet, and she's not going to take anything down. She could catch a scrub hare if she could find one. You know, you should chase some birds around, but unfortunately not big enough just yet to catch a wildebeest. But we'll sit here for a bit longer. I think it's a bit late for us to start heading down to the river, especially with there not being much light, and the wildebeest are moving in slowly. Tristan is still going from waterhole to waterhole. I wonder what's going to be next.
I wonder too, Tayla. It would be nice, since you're discussing Djuma lions, to actually see one of those, because it's been a while since we've seen any sign of lions. In fact, the entire time I've been back from leave, I've only seen that one Birmingham boy on Chitwa. I have not seen a single evidence of a lion on Djuma. So it would be nice for the lions to come back, although I think the giraffe kill is almost done now. I don't think there's too much left on that, and so hopefully the Angama pride will start heading back in this general direction, and we'll be able to get them and see them. Interestingly though, there was tracks for a pride the other day that everyone thought was the Angama pride going into Buffalo's Hook, but it actually turns out to be a new pride. So a pride called Nharu pride, spelled N-H-A-R-U, and they're a pride that are a split from the Birmingham pride. So it's actually a relatives of the males that we see here, and is apparently, from what I can gather, 3 females and 10 sub-adults. So it's a pride of 13 lions, and the sub-adults, there's a couple males in there, and apparently they went all the way down towards Ulusaba to the Sand River, and then came all the way back and sneaked past us both times via the gate. They didn't hang around too much. They were seen on Arathusa, Elephant Plains, Singita and then down into Ulusabe area in the west. So they've done quite a long journey, and very interesting that they're marching around like that. I got an update today that they were seen a few days ago in the Sabi Sands, about 3 days ago, and then today they were seen all the way near Open Gate, which is on the northern side of the Manyeleti. So they really are moving quite quickly and quite far. And so I wonder why they're doing it. There must be some sort of male takeover where the Birmingham Pride is at the moment, that a female would, or females would march their cubs that far away into an area they completely don't know. Now we've just come past Janet Jackson's hole. So Janet Jackson hole is unfortunately is empty and no sign of Janet Jackson at all. So that's the hole that she normally spends time in, or here, I'm not sure which one it is. But alas, this cycle I have not yet seen any sign of a Janet inside here. So maybe it's been abandoned after that rainstorm. Maybe it flooded and was not a suitable home for our Janet, and that's why we haven't seen it. Also, in these extreme temperatures, I would imagine that kind of tree is going to get absolutely cooked. It's in no shade whatsoever, so it must be really hot inside there during the middle part of the day. So maybe our Janet has found somewhere a little shadier that is far more comfortable. Now, we did check around for shadow, no sign of her that we can see, but nothing crossing south as well. So hopefully she's still around there, and when we go back later that she'll be there somewhere with Hosana, and we can get some interesting interaction between the three of them. At least we know where one leopard is, and hopefully the other two will also be around. Now Sky, it can get that hot that leopards and various other animals are in danger of overheating and could potentially die of heat stroke. And funny enough, it's mostly actually young animals that suffer from it. So you'll find that in times when we get sudden cold or sudden hot, young animals often can't withstand that, and they then do die from it. We do get temperatures here that can get in excess of 48, 49 degrees Celsius, or close to 120 Fahrenheit in the shade. So in the sun, you can imagine how hot that is, and it's really quite tough. The thing is though, is when that happens is generally in our summer months, which means we normally have rainfall, and therefore the cats can just hydrate and keep drinking and keep themselves in some of these shady areas where water is, and that allows them then to survive. So I personally have never seen a cat dying of heat just out of the blue, a healthy individual. You get older individuals that might succumb to the heat, that are maybe injured or have lived a really long life and their body is slowly giving out anyway. That heat might sort of start something, but in most cases you'll find a situation where they'll be able to survive because it's the summertime, and therefore there's enough rain to hydrate and keep their bodies with water, and therefore can survive. So it should be that, you know, temperatures like this won't really bother them. At the end of the day, this is going to be the norm going forward over the next 3-4 months. At the moment it's just a bit of a shock because we've come out of winter and it's been fairly pleasant. It actually hasn't been too hot at all, and now in the last 3 days the temperature gauge has just been cranked way up, and we're starting to see it's getting really quite warm. So it might just be a case that that's why they've gotten a little bit hot, and also they've fed really well. We had a bit of overcast conditions prior to this, and most of our cats have really taken full toll of that overcast stormy weather and had lots of kills to themselves. Now, talking about sort of summertime and water and those kind of things, I actually heard the first Diedrich cuckoo this morning, for those of you that have been wondering about migratory birds and which ones are around. So I heard a Diedrich cuckoo this morning, which is most definitely the first one of the summer that I've heard here at Djuma. It was calling close to Inga's. So this afternoon I'm hoping to hear either the Diedrich or the classes, and we'll try and then find it using their calls. Oh no. Question from Harry Potter Sorrel in FC: what is my favorite cuckoo? Well, Byron Sorrel, my favorite cuckoo, I would say, is the African emerald cuckoo. Now, I'm not sure if Byron's even seen an African emerald cuckoo. He might have, because you do get them at Londolozi, very seldom, but they do sometimes get there. And so that is my favorite. It is an absolutely beautiful bird. I'll actually show you what it looks like now. It's got this emerald green back and this bright yellow chest. It is a very pretty bird. And while I'm trying to find my cuckoo in my book, we can have a little look at Twin Dams and see what's happening there. And we can also ask Byron in FC what is his favorite cuckoo, so we can find out exactly which one he likes the most. I'm going to guess Klaas's cuckoo. I might be completely wrong, but that's what I'm going to guess as his favorite cuckoo. Of course, now that I've said that and he's still thinking, he won't tell me the actual real honest answer, but I think Klaas's is probably where he falls. red-chested cuckoo. Oh, well, that sounds about right, because the red-chested cuckoo also doesn't keep quiet for longer than 5 minutes. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, Byron. Don't stress. Cuckoos, where are we? 2, 3, 4. So I don't know why I paged past them, but okay, there we go. So here is my favorite cuckoo. It is this individual right at the bottom here. You can see the male is a really, really beautiful emerald green on the back and head area, and then this bright yellow chest, and when they fly they show a bit of white in them, and they're a really difficult bird to see. They tend to hang around in thick, dense, lush vegetation where this sparkling emerald actually blends in incredibly well with this sort of yellow in the front, and they're really not easy at all to kind of find. And the way that you find them more is just by listening to their call. And so when you hear a call that basically goes like Georgie is the name that it says, then you find them there. And like I say, here in the Sabi Sands, quite tough to find. The only places that I've heard of them being seen is along the Sand River and the Sabi River. So far, I don't think anybody has seen any of these African emeralds up here in this section. You might probably get them on the Manyeleti if you're lucky, with a bit of rain, and if the Manyeleti starts to flow, but I haven't heard of it being seen up here just yet. Right, Twin Dams is a bust, unfortunately. I was hoping there was going to be some ellies all in the water and playing and going crazy, because it's been a long time since we've seen any elephants playing around in the water. So I was really hoping to see some of them. There's not even really any tracks for elephants to follow up on, and so I'm going to just check along the Mulawati now and see if they're not in the Mulawati feeding in the shade of those big trees and just having a bit of a relax before making their way to water. So while I do that, Tayla McCurdy is still sitting with her lions that at the moment sound like they are fast asleep and enjoying the comfort of some shade of their own.
And as you say that, it's like this lion heard you say going, oh, sorry, wow. What is wrong with me today? Right, let me try that again. Megan, what I was trying to say. So got some exciting news, but I'm not going to be able to show you right now because of the way that I've parked. Now, remember our 7 or 8 wildebeest that we had behind us? They've multiplied into about 500. How exciting is that? There's a huge herd coming from the south now, which is quite exciting, which means now that these lions are completely surrounded by wildebeest, and 2 herds west of them and south of them are fairly close, within, just a couple of 100 meters. So that is great news, and the wind is still blowing an absolute hurricane. There's also water around and a vulture, which Sebastian is so quick. There we go, you got it. If you go a little bit to the right, there's that tree, not the shrub. Yeah, there we go. You spot on. This morning have a frenzy, and we saw some rupals and some whiteback. There was also a leopard-faced vulture around. There's the hooded vulture that I was trying to tell you about as well. You can see, look how slender its beak is compared to the other 2. If you've got any screenshots from this morning's sighting, you can hashtag Safari Live and share it with everybody so they can see exactly what we were talking about. And this is not an uncommon sight to see vultures sitting around and next to lions. Now, if you can see the screen shaking a little bit, don't worry, it's not your computer. It's the wind blowing Sebastian and the camera around. It's that windy out here at the moment. And if I was a vulture, I don't think I'd want to be flying around in this, because you'd just be blown all over the show. So sitting down on the ground out of the wind is probably the best thing to do for the moment. And who knows, if they hang around here, it is going to get dark, so they're going to have to find a spot to roost, but they won't have to fly too far if these lions make a kill in this vicinity. So it's a pretty good spot. I think those are 2 very clever vultures. I'm going to lean back. I'm going to do the matrix out the car. Oh, come on, wildebeest. Oh, are you showing me doing the matrix? Nice. Go away. But yes, the wildebeest. It's a car.
Well, unfortunately, it sounds like there's a few gremlins lurking in the plains of Africa as well. So you're back with me in the Mulawati, and it is beautiful in here. It is shady, it is cool, it is wonderful in here, and we've actually got a beautiful Nyala bull. So there we go. I've now been able to see the difference between Impala and Nyalas this afternoon, because I had Impalas to start with, and there is a big male Nyala. In my defense though, those horns, at least the front section of those horns, are not too dissimilar from the shape of a male Impala as well. although Byron will probably beg to differ and probably give me a hard time anyway about it. But this is perfect habitat for male Nyala. They'll love sections like this. It is much cooler inside here. I would say probably in the shady areas is at least 5-6 degrees centigrade cooler inside here. There's a bit of a breeze blowing, and so it feels a lot more comfortable. And being an animal with a big shaggy coat like that, it means that they're going to be a lot cooler by being in places like this. And it's why I'm in here, is to try and see if I can find any other species of animals as well that are enjoying the cool shady areas of the riverbed. It's also perfect for the male Nyala's camouflage. If you look at that animal, you can see how as it goes into the shadowy areas, it's starting to disappear completely. That brown dark coloration matches the darkness of these trees. Remember, the cats are not seeing in the same colors as what we're seeing, and so they are seeing a far more monotone shade of colors, or monotone sort of gradient, should I say. And that means that dark coloration is blending in that much better with the darkness of the shade. And you'll find that these guys utilize this to their advantage. They'll try and move around in these thickets, try and stay where it's dense and dark and thick, and try and then camouflage as much as possible. The nice thing though, that is when there's a bit of light and a bit of dappled light, they do have bits of white and dots and stripes on them that just help to break up that outline and match in with that dappled light so that they don't give themselves away. It really is a very clever feature of the Nyalas. But he's a beautiful bull, this individual. I wonder if will allow us to get a little closer to him. I'm going to try and not scare him off by hitting the antenna. And we hit it, oopsie. But he still seems as though he's going to stay still for us, which will be quite nice. And they really are beautiful animals. No, he's going to move off into his little shady area. I think he's not sure about us at this stage. He's almost looking over the bush to say, what are you guys doing and why are you here? This is one of the most relaxed Nyalas I've seen in a long time. Maybe it's because of the heat. Now, if we look as he walks away, you'll see that his legs at the base are a completely different color to the rest of his body. If we sort of go in there, you can see that there's this creamy colored leg structure. Now you'd think, why would they have cream colored legs to match the shadowy dark areas? Well, the reason for that is that grass grows in these areas, and grass is generally a much lighter color than anywhere else, and so that's designed to blend into the grass and just to keep this Nyala completely hidden. So a very clever system that they've got there. You can see the long shaggy coat that he'll use in his efforts to get females and to try and dominate other males. He'll erect all of that up to try and make himself appear larger. But absolutely beautiful. They really are one of my favorite antelope species. In fact, they are my favorite antelope species that we see out here in the southern parts of Africa. They are exotic and beautiful. So I believe a lot of you are making fun of me and teasing me and asking if it's an Impala. Well, no, sadly it's not. I don't think I'm going to live this one down for a while, and as long as Byron is here, I'm most certainly not going to live it down. Byron is going to do everything in his power to make sure that I relive this moment over and over again, and so, well, we're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it. It is one of those things. It happens. Oh, are you going to the toilet now? Lovely. So there you go. That's what the Nyala thinks of all of you calling him an Impala. So he's now just going to defecate and be like, that's what I think of that idea, and making sure that we know he is a Nyala itself. But you can see how he's tucking into some nice fresh greenery that's growing amongst the vegetation at the moment. There's lots of nice green grass, and particularly in these thickets where very few other animals have been feeding, there's a lot more grass to be eaten. And most people will tell you that a Nyala is only a browser, but that just goes to show that when conditions are right, and at this point in time where the leaves of some of the more nutritious plants haven't quite grown very well just yet, you'll find Nyalas will actually graze as well and eat grasses that are fresh and green and lush and full of moisture and nutrients that they can get. You can also just go to the toilet on that nice fresh green grass and make sure that the garden is still being watered. Are you pulling out all the tricks today, aren't you, mister? From defecating to urinating, you're not doing yourself many favors, that's for sure. But look at that beautiful face. They really are impressive animals. I like how the tail goes all curvy when they go to the toilet. I've never noticed that before. You expect that when he's maybe defecating, but when he's urinating, I didn't think that they would curl their tail. But, well, maybe this is how it is. You've got to look good when you're doing these things. Phelan, I'm not sure how old this Nyala is. It's difficult to age Nyala, and because once their horns reach that sort of size, they are fully grown individuals, so they're well over sort of 4 years old. He's also got a well-developed coat, a well-developed mane, and genetically they are smaller and bigger Nyala, and also ones that will have longer coats, longer horns, all of those kind of things. So it's a rough estimate. I would say that this Nyala is probably anywhere between maybe 5 and 7 years, somewhere in that general vicinity, just given the length of his horns. He's got quite a nice set of horns, but it's a complete thumbsuck. It's very difficult to age them. Once they get adults and they've changed color and their coat has grown out, it's just then a genetic thing with the horns and various other things. The thing about him, though, is the reason why I'm erring on a little bit younger, sort of 5 to 7, is that his ears were quite clean. There wasn't too much tattiness in those ears. Remember, they live in thick, dense areas, and this bush that he was actually walking through now is a spike thorn with lots of little thorns on it, and so often they tear their ears as they get older and they get little nicks out of it, much like a leopard or a lion. And so his ears are still quite clean, so I'd imagine he's on the younger side of life. But it's a complete guess. It's not 100% accurate in any way whatsoever. There's no scientific way to age these antelopes correctly, other than just to kind of use a number of different factors and give it a good guess based on those. Right, well, our Nyala's departed, and so we're going to try and carry on and see what other little secrets and little surprises the Mulawati holds for us. Hopefully there'll be some nice interesting things. It's also a great place for birding in heat like this. You'll find a number of, particularly the cuckoo species, like what we've been talking about just now, especially those greener colored cuckoos. We'll spend a lot of time in areas like this, so it's a good place to have a little look around and check, and also a good place to spot leopard tracks that I think I've just seen now as well. Are they leopard tracks or are they hyenas? They're hyena tracks, so they're not, maybe not. I'll have to have a double check of those and just see what they are. And so while I have a little look and a closer inspection of what tracks these are, let's go back to Tayla McCurdy, who I think is still with the lions. I'm not 100% sure, but let's go and check.
Guess what? We managed to turn ourselves around, just like I said we were going to do, and those are all the wildebeest that went from 7 or 8. Now you can see how they multiplied. Isn't that amazing? Within the blink of an eye. I have absolutely no idea where they came from. I don't know if they sprouted out of a molehill or a termite mound, or the wind blew them in. I don't know how they got here so quickly, but that's okay. I've been coming to me. Hello, everyone again. Otherwise, are very awkward. Now you see how we awkwardly dance to try and get out of the camera's way. But so we've changed our position. We're probably going to reposition a little bit more, maybe a little bit later. The adults haven't got their heads up yet. It's just one of the young males that has sat up at the moment and is staring straight into the hundreds of eyes that are looking down on the ground because they're eating grass, and they don't know that the lions are here just yet. It's going to be a little bit tricky. The angle at which this wind is coming from, it's swirling a little bit. So I hope that the wildebeest don't pick up on the scent of the lions. Now, most of you know I'm all for the prey winning. However, I also want to see lions be successful, and the only way that a lion can be successful, especially when you're at this age, is if you constantly have good meals on a regular basis. Otherwise you're going to go hungry. You're not going to be able to grow as big and strong as you should. But look at him, he's so focused. I would wonder, well, like I said this morning, I'd love to know what's going on in an elephant's brain. Imagine being in the mind of a lion when they're trying to plan a hunt. I think that could be really cool. Focused, absolutely focused. Probably thinking, when I'm big and strong, I won't have to wait around for mom to get me dinner. I will just go and catch it whenever I want. Well, speaking of mom, one of them lifted up their heads and looked towards us. Yes, girl, those wildebeest are getting very close. Now, Riti, a good question from you, and I'm sure that this has come from watching our young leopards grow up. You're wondering, would these young lions, my goodness, that was a great spoonerism, wasn't it? If they would ever hunt terrapins and scrub hares. I'm sure they would. I'm sure they're very curious by the movement of a terrapin in the water, and of course if a scrub hare is in a shrub and they happen to disturb it, it goes darting out. Most certainly they'll chase after it. Whether they're as agile as a leopard, not so sure. We have seen them chase after francolins and spurfowls before that come around to the to everybody, to the carcasses, and then feeding on the maggots and things. We saw that a lot last year in the drought when there was an abundance of dead buffalo around, unfortunately, and just decaying. So they will, but right now they're at the stage where they're going, not really interested in chasing birds anymore. I'm done with that. I'm moving on. I want the big things. I want to learn how to bring down a wildebeest or a zebra. And that's exactly what they're going to do. Even just sitting here, that sort of trying to put pieces of the puzzle together, going, what would I do? Would I charge towards them? Would I try and sneak and use this little drainage line? Would I go round? Would I use the wind? Would I use the sun? All those different things I'm sure are going through his mind. And I remember as a guide, we were given scenarios when we were doing our backup trails, learning. Obviously, everything was on a piece of paper that have drawings that have a river line, that have a rocky outcrop, that have different trees, and then that have various animals plotted on this very basic map as well. And they would say, you have to get from point A to B. How would you do so? But you'd have to always give two different ways that you would go. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going on in that lion's mind. He's practicing. He's thinking, right, if I do that, maybe that will happen. Because they're not bad at problem solving. That's one of the whole reasons of being able to successfully bring down prey is you've got to be a good problem solver. Honey badgers, hyenas, mongoose are incredible when it comes to solving problems out here. Probably some of the best, and even elephants, of course elephants. So that's quite interesting. I think if I had to get into the mind of a predator, probably be a hyena, just because they are so smart, even though they don't look as intelligent as what they are, and sometimes they don't behave very intelligently. They're incredibly clever. So I'd like to know how they sort of plot and how they hunt. And obviously they live in massive groups too. So it's very exciting. So I'm just having a look and trying to work out what these wildebeests are going to do. This is the hard part. It's trying to predict animal movement, which is virtually impossible. They're moving south now. There's a car coming past. Now, Alana, who is only 14 years old, one of our younger viewers, it's great to hear a question from you. You're wondering if more lionesses in the pride would help them catch something. Most certainly, you've got a better chance. There's more claws, more teeth, more options to go for. Might not even just bring down one animal if it's a large pride. I've seen lions catching, for example, in the Eastern Cape, where they would feed mainly on blesbok, was their favorite food. They would go in and try and catch 2 or 3 of them at a time rather than just one because it was small. So most certainly the more you've got, the better chances you have. You can put yourself into more spots. It's like if you played a game of cricket or hockey, you try and fill the gaps. And the more players you have, the easier it is to fill the gaps. So the same thing would go with a pride of lions. One lion on its own, that's tough, and that's why when leopards hunt, that's why they have to get so close to their prey. It's because they're on their own. They can't afford to go chasing after it, and we know they can't run at a very fast pace for too long. They're getting tired quickly. Whereas lions, they all work together and then will eventually try and corner one and grab one, or separate it from a herd, or when it's big herds of buffalo, try and take on the one that's lagging at the back. And when you've got more lions and you're hunting big herds of buffalo, for example, you can then try and distract the rest of the herd, and more of you can charge towards the buffalo. For example, that's actually quite a cool thing. I had an amazing sighting once. I think it was a private rehearsal though with Nat Geo, so we did do a highlight clip of it where we had that amazing takedown. That lioness basically body slammed. It was a move from wrestling basically, and that day was a great example to see how the whole pride actually worked together. So one lioness and one of the Birmingham boys took this young buffalo calf down, and the rest of the herd of buffalo came charging back in to try and chase everybody away. But it didn't work because the lionesses, barring one male and one female, all stood together and then ran straight towards that herd of buffalo, and the buffalo panicked and then stampeded again in the opposite direction and didn't come back. Now, if it was just the 2 of them, you would have found that those buffalo would probably come in and chase the 2 lions off, and up that young calf would have gone, and it would have survived. So yes, it does help to have more predators in a group. Where are you going, wildebeest? Or if they around here, perhaps they're on their way back towards Tanzania. They're not far away from Tanzania at all. Probably 3 or 4 miles, 3 miles, let's say 3 miles from where we are now, sort of further southwest of us. Lions, you're making me tired just looking at you. It's been a long day, but a good day, and I'm hoping it's going to end off with a nice surprise. We've been very spoilt. Right, Tristan's still bumbling about. He's checked Treehouse Dam. He's checked Twin Dams. There's only a few more left. I wonder how much water is actually left in all those dams. Where are you off to next, Mr. T?
Well, Miss T, I think what I'm going to do next is I'm just meandering around some of the little mud wallows that are close to the Mulawati, and then I'm going to head straight up towards Buffelshoek Dam, see if anything's up there. Actually, no, I'm not going to head to Buffelshoek Dam. I just remembered that we don't have Gowrie Repeater, which means that Buffelshoek Dam, unfortunately, is a no-go. So, from here, I think a little bit further up the Mulawati, check Chelapan, we'll check Pangolin Track, see if maybe there's any sign of Tundi around there, or any Ellies up that way, and then from there, we'll slowly start meandering our way back, probably towards Treehouse and Hosana. So that's, I think, the plan for the rest of the afternoon, and I can sympathize with Tayla and her sleeping lions, because, well, Hosana was very much the same, and that's partly why we're just driving around at the moment, is we trying to see what else there is out here, and just to explore and take in some other things, because it's not always just about the cats. There is beautiful trees at the moment, the scenery is stunning as the grass is starting to grow and come out, and there's birds around, and so it's worth just taking a little journey around the reserve and just seeing what else there is, and just checking out and seeing. You never know, maybe we come across something else of interest. There could be anything around any corner. We know the dogs were around yesterday, and so they could pop out anywhere, so it's worth just taking a little drive around and just having a look and seeing, while we know that there is a cat available and sleeping, and we go there a little bit later and hopefully be more active. So James, you're wondering when the millipedes will reappear. I think something... land snails. That's what I thought you might mean. Well, millipedes have started to reappear. I've seen a few already at camp. There was one in the FC the other day, and a couple milling around the camp itself. Now, I'm pretty sure there might be some giraffe around here. I've just seen some giraffe tracks and heard some oxpeckers, so we'll just be on the lookout for them. But are those leopard tracks, Vildy? They are. Very good, BM. There is leopard tracks right here. Now, whose leopard tracks are these? This is interesting, because I didn't see anything in the Mulawati, so I wonder if these could be on top of my tracks. But I'm just going to park so that you can see them. There they are, slowly meandering down the Mulawati in the tire tracks. You can see them pretty clear as day as they come down, and it looks to me like there's two here. VM, what do you think? It does look like a male, but it looks as though there could be two different tracks here. So this could be quite interesting. We know we heard leopards calling 2 days ago in the morning, and then Byron heard it in the afternoon, and I wonder if maybe Tundi isn't walking around with Tingana. Now this might be worth just having a little check around for, because there's certainly, these tracks are on top of the vehicle tracks, or of anybody who would have driven here. Now of course I wasn't out this morning, so I don't know exactly if anybody drove here, but I'm going to just check quickly, double check this Mulawati system again. Now in terms of, sorry James, we got interrupted by leopard tracks. It happens, and as we know, I can get confused between Nyalas and Impalas, and so, well, these things kind of distract me. But land snails, no, not yet. I haven't seen any of them. I don't think we have had quite enough rain for them just yet. Tortoises slowly but surely, millipedes slowly but surely. So I would imagine that the next ones that we are going to see are going to be the no tracks coming out here, but it looks like they've dragged tires here. Now, I'm not 100% sure if these leopards came all the way south, so it might be worth just going up onto Twin Dams itself and checking. But there's no sign of any tracks here. Looks like somebody dragged a tire sort of in this area and flattened out the Mulawati a little bit. Not sure why they would have dragged them here, but we'll just double check and make 100% sure. But maybe those are the tracks that we saw earlier as well, going towards Twin Dams. So there might be some leopards lurking around somewhere in this general vicinity, and it's going to be worth just checking out and seeing what's happening. But I'm hoping the snails will be out soon. They, at the end of the day, should be any time now. It's getting warm. There's hopefully, there we go, there's their tracks again. Vildy, you see them? So it's going up towards Elephant Carcass. So the track just goes on my right. here and climbs up into the top. And this is a very typical route for Tumba and for Tundi. Now Vildi's saying that my mic pack is giving a little bit of trauma. Is that better, Vim? Okay, well hopefully it will be better and that I won't be giving any more issues. But this is a very typical way that Tundi and Tumba move around, and Tingana actually, all three of them. So I'm going to just go jump back up and just check elephant carcass quickly and see, maybe we get lucky and there's some more leopards around. But exciting, and this is what I was saying earlier about following of tracks and looking for tracks and just driving away from some of the other cats to be able to then see if we can find some other things that are around. Now Philip, Shadow's limp, probably not anymore. It won't be that visible in her tracks. She's not limping as bad as she was, and she seems to be kind of fairly sort of mobile. You might see a bit of a shortness in the gait, so the gait might not be as long as what we would have expected, but I don't think that in all likelihood that we'll see too much differentiation there. Like I said, the only thing you might see is that the left side of her, I think it's her left leg that's limping, but that sort of distance between the back and front might be shorter than what the right one would be, or whichever side is injured at the moment. I always forget because Tundi was the opposite side at one point, and so that's what I would suggest, is that it's possibly a situation like that where it's just a slight shortness in the gait, but the actual limp itself won't drag the foot or anything like she would have way back when she first was injured. Alright, so no tracks down this way, which means that this animal must have gone towards elephant carcass. And in my mind I'm just thinking now maybe it's Hosana's tracks, because at the end of the day, yesterday morning I had tracks for Hosana going into the Mulawati. We know that he was then found this morning at Treehouse Dam, and well, if you go out of the Mulawati and head straight west from where those tracks are, that takes you on elephant carcass and all the way to Treehouse Dam itself. So that could very well be Hosana's tracks, but I just want to double check on Twin Dams and see, because they are on top of all of the tracks and on top of all the vehicle tracks from this area, and so maybe we get lucky and there is another set of leopards around. Just checking the jackalberry as we go up. There's often can be little owls in the jackalberry itself. Also need to choose the right gear, and there we go. Now I'm still going to carry on and check these tracks and just double check and make 100% sure, and so while I do that, let's go back across to Tayla McCurdy, whose lions I believe are still fast asleep and are not doing too much, but I'm sure she will be rewarded with her patience a little bit later.
One of the lionesses have even twitched an ear this afternoon. How crazy is that? The wildebeest are slowly coming towards us. I've now lost sight of them. They're behind the little section of the quarry, which is fine. I don't think that they've seen, so they're just sort of here. You can just sort of see their heads. Now that's pretty much the end of the herd. Most of them have already gone round. I'm waiting to see them pop out on the other side. They're still very far away. As Scott would say, I think it's too soon to panic in terms of thinking that they're going to hunt. The lionesses haven't even popped their heads up yet. It's the youngsters that are just sort of staring off. But in the moment they're good. The wind has changed slightly, but if those wildebeest come a little bit further around to the right, we might be in a bit of trouble. Not we, the lions might be in a bit of trouble, because they could send their scent all the way down that way. Now, Romit, you're wondering how close to these lazy, or how close do the wildebeest have to be to these lazy lions for them to react? It just depends. I'm shocked, because normally the lionesses, if they were exceptionally hungry, they would have already popped their heads up and they would have been heading into a better position, but maybe they've got something else planned that we just don't know about. And that's the thing with not being able... Oh my goodness, here they all come, we're surrounded. It's the herd from the west joining up with the southerners now. Wildebeest, what are you doing? And they're ridiculous in the wind as well. So yes, we're just going to have to wait and see. But typically, lions will start stalking from hundreds of meters away, getting closer and closer. Ideally, if they can get 20 or 30 meters away from their prey, then they can chase and capture them like that. Whether that's going to happen, I'm not so sure. They might also wait until they come down and have a drink and, you know, not sort of concentrating as to what's going on, but you can see they're a bit nervous, and I don't think it's because they know the lion's here, it's because of the wind. They can't really hear anything, the scents are swirling around, but this herd is now turning in, going to be a couple of thousand, because there's more coming from behind us that we just can't see, and then there's more wildebeest coming from the sort of southeast, so that's quite good, and they're all merging to one. I really do hope they come and drink water from this quarry. That would be perfect. If these lions don't go for these wildebeest, I'm going to be completely shocked. Really I am, because it's a perfect opportunity. And Christy, you've said it doesn't look like these lions are very, very hungry. Oh, well, you know, sometimes I don't look like I should need to eat either, but I do anyway, so I'm pretty sure it's the same with the lions. Remember, they're opportunistic feeders. They've got to take any opportunity they can get. And if that means that they're going to come down and drink water, and the lions can catch one, they will. They're not going to say no. And even when lions are on a kill, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily not going to hunt again if something comes barging on through and doesn't know that they're there. So I think they look relatively hungry, the way that those youngsters were staring out at the distance, and the silly wildebeest that's coming over here. They're still, you see, look at them, they're so panicked. Well, the lions haven't reacted yet. And what are you guys doing? Make up your mind. Where are you going? Going to come drink water? Megan, don't worry, I will let you know when I think we should go live with a broadcast. I think it's just a bit too soon just yet. But patience, we will be very patient. I just can't believe that 500 wildebeest have disappeared behind the smallest mound in the history of mounds. I mean, that's just unbelievable. They're all there. All those wildebeest that we saw, you're just starting to see their heads popping out now on the right. We're coming closer. So the more wildebeest that surround these lions, the better. This is going to be so cool. Lions, are you just waiting till the absolute last minute? Perhaps they're pretending that they're dead, and that's their strategy for the day. They're just going to lay there and pretend that they're rocks, and when they get right underneath them, then have a go. Now, see, you're wondering how long can the lions and the wildebeest run for? Well, we'd start with the wildebeest. The wildebeest have got a sloped back, which actually allows them to keep that rocking horse sort of motion up, and that means that they can travel for a lot further. They won't run at top speed for very long, but they can keep their sort of canter up for quite some time, much longer than that of a lion. A lion probably run about 100 meters, and then it's pretty much exhausted after that, so they can't keep that up for very long. And then they'll need to rest before they try again. Lions, you are missing your opportunity here. Wake up. Or maybe I wouldn't make a very good lion because I'm so impatient. I think that's probably the case. Lions know best, of course. These lionesses are experienced. They've brought down many animals before. Why am I trying to give them advice? I sound like my mom now. No, I'm just teasing. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching. She'd be threatening me now if she was watching the show. I don't think so. Maybe my dad is watching. Then my dad would be chuckling at that comment. Ha 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 ha. And there they go. These ones seem a lot more relaxed. They're walking, not running away from the blade of grass that blew in the opposite direction, because they get frights for no reason, these wildebeest. They do tend to panic quite a bit. So wildebeest, you are going in a different direction. You're marching away from the lions, and then there's a herd marching towards the lions. There's no one coming from behind us. Roshni, you said you can't believe the number of gnu's that there are moving around you. There's plenty of gnu's. I wonder if there's anyone waiting to catch their gnuba. Isn't that so funny? I saw that. Someone tagged me in a meme the other day, and it was great. I laughed for ages. I thought it was so funny. We just need one standing on the roads, you know, sort of looking left, right, left, right. Is that it? Oh, no, it's not. Yeah. Anyways, I suppose we just have to wait around. I'm being very silly now. All of a sudden, I've got this burst of energy, and I don't know what to do with myself because I'm trapped in the car. I'm going to have to do push-ups or handstands or something in a minute. But they're all around here. They're slowly coming forward. Actually, Seb, have a look how these ones are marching forward now. But still no response from the lioness. Mohammed, you're wondering if wildebeest are the only antelope that have long hair that go, well, I suppose run down their necks like horses. No, there's lots of animals that actually have a mane of sorts. Giraffe have a mane. Zebra have a mane, but I suppose they're in the equus family. Wildebeest, of course, as you've spotted, have a mane. Kudus have an upside down mane, the males. They've got one that goes down from their chinny chin chin to their chesty chest. What else has got a mane? Now I must think. Not much, it's so obvious, but you know when you're trying to think of these things, it's so difficult sometimes. But so the answer to that is no. There are quite a few animals that do have manes. The wildebeest has got an impressive mane, though. They don't have a forelock, though, like a horse does. I suppose zebras don't really have a forelock either. It's very spiky. That's that piece of hair that runs sort of from the pole, from the top of their head down between their eyes. Wildebeest. You see, do you guys remember when I told you about the wildebeest always reminding me of someone that's tried to put a hat on that's too small? It's like horns have been forced to their heads. It really, every time I see it, it makes me chuckle, because that's all I see. It's just someone that's trying to put a hat on that just does not fit them. Wildebeest. Still no reaction from the lions. Let's I don't know. You see, it's a hard one to reposition, because the wildebeest that if the lions are going to go after are going to be these ones that are coming now down towards us. And I want to be able to move freely, because I don't want to be able and stuck in a stampede, because there's now so many wildebeest. Even though it is light, if they do panic, we could still find ourselves in a bit of trouble, and I do not want to be whacked by a wildebeest. That is not on my list of things to do while in the Mara. So we're going to try and stay safe in this situation too. We also don't want to disturb the lion hunt. That's the most important thing. We want to give the wildebeest an equal opportunity. We want to give the lions an equal opportunity. So we just need to make sure that we are careful. So I'm going to do a bit of brainstorming now. Tristan is still bumbling about, and I know he's the king of leopards. I wonder if he's going to find any lions for you this evening.
I don't think we'll find any lions, unfortunately. A situation where we have... Now, I don't know if my microphone is playing up a little bit, but is that better, Liam? Okay, there we go. So, our lions at the moment, well, the Nkuma Pride and Birmingham's are all on a giraffe kill, so the chances of seeing them is very slim, and the only other lions are around are the sticks, and they're on a net south of Chitwa, so no chance with them. But what there is instead is a Wahlberg's eagle. So there's a dark form Wahlberg's that's being bombarded by a lilac-breasted roller at the moment, so you can hear the roller dive bombing it. There's the little roller going after them. You can see how brave they are. Now, apparently my mic, well, I don't know why, it's fairly tight, but that better, Liam?
I think it's the antenna.
Okay, so maybe it's the antenna that is giving troubles. How's that, Liam? Better. Alright, so hopefully that will be the end of our mic troubles for the rest of the day. It would be nice if we didn't have any mic issues, but there goes the Wahlberg's eagle, and we know it's a Wahlberg's eagle just from that big rectangular tail that you see there. It does fan out when they are stabilizing themselves, particularly when they're twisting and turning and they're being dive bombed, but as soon as they kind of start getting into an area where they're gliding, you'll find that the tail will thin back out and become far more rectangular and look a lot more Wahlberg-like as it goes. Now, this Wahlberg's was actually down on the ground, so I want to go where it was just now before we unfortunately interrupted it and just see what it's feeding on. It might be feeding on termites, it might be feeding on frog that it might have gotten from one of these mud wallows. They're also not big exponents of catching things like quellias and small birds, so it might be worth just having a little quick look. Now, just an update on those tracks that we found. There was definitely tracks for two individuals. It looked like two male leopards, so I'm not sure which ones, but they both go towards Elephant Carcass, and given that we know Hosana was at Treehouse Dam and Elephant Carcass runs straight to Treehouse Dam, I'm pretty sure one of them was him. The other one I think could have gone onto Twin Dams and gone southwards. It's very difficult to say because Twin Dams has been dragged with tires and has been driven, and so to find out exactly where they went from there is quite tough. Right, now I've Just checking here to see if there's any sign of any kill of a bird or anything like that. It doesn't seem like there is anything, so I think our Wahlberg's eagle is just down the ground probably looking for stuff, or it finished what it was eating. But I believe Taylor's lions are up and hunting.
Rightio, look who has decided to join the party. Hello, Miss Lioness. Also, I must just tell you, I think that these are all 3 boys, because that very pretty little lion that we were looking at earlier turns out to have some appendages that normally female lions don't have. So I think that's a girl that's a boy as well. So we'll just have to wait and see until they're all up to uncover who's who. Now, very keen though, has crawled right up into some of those mounds in between 2 of them, just hiding about. The wildebeest are walking straight towards that young lion, and I'm glad that the lionesses have actually realized how close they are now. Whew. Took them a while, didn't it, to catch on? And here I am bad-mouthing the wildebeest, and it seems that the lions were not concentrating today, but that's okay. They're starting to wake up now. Now to just decide what's going to happen, because it's all very pretty at the moment. I think in 1 minute we're going to go live just now. Not quite yet, not ready, just need to prepare myself. Whew, deep breaths. Are you ready for this, Sebastian?
Yeah,
this is, if only the flies could leave you alone. They're very rude.
I showered today, though.
Yeah, Sebastian said he showered. I don't believe him. I think he just turned the water on and just I'm joking. So I'm deciding what we're going to do, because there's a quarry. I don't want to interfere with these lions. Not the greatest, most perfect view, but sometimes it can't always be the most perfect view. When the second lioness sits up and spots that the wildebeest are very close by, then I think it will be quite exciting. That youngster that's waiting there, well, let's see if it can play the patience game as well as I can this afternoon. I don't think so, because at that age, all they want to do is just chase after things and catch something now. Need a little bit of a... You're not going to manage on your own. Where's the other lion gone? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sebastian?
Huh?
Where's that other lion? Well,
Still lying down.
can you see if oh yes, there's 3. My bad. Oh my goodness, I only saw 2 lions there, but now I see. Thank you. Now, Proud Cat Mummy wondering how much can a lion eat in one sitting? A lot is the answer to that. A female will typically eat, now this is all just from what I've read in a book, because I've never weighed the stomach contents of a lion after it had eaten, but they say anywhere between 5 and 7 kilograms in one sitting, and then the male will eat almost double that, if not even more. I know there was oh no, now I can't remember the numbers. Now, let me not even mention it, because now I'm unsure. I've forgotten all of a sudden exactly how much meat they found in a male lion once in Kruger. It was the largest recorded amount of sort of meat, flesh, that had ever been found in a lion, but I've completely forgotten about that. I'll have to find that fact or that article and reread it. So it's a huge amount, and you can understand then why they have such big bulging bellies and why they need to rest so much after. Firstly, they're exhausted because they've just brought down an animal that's double their size. If it's a buffalo, 3 times their size, if not even a bit more. And then of course it's exhausting. You know what it feels like when you go to a buffet. You're tired afterwards, belly's full, and you just want to go to bed. Wildebeest, you're coming closer, but still so far away. It can also be a little bit deceiving with the cameras. The vultures have flown off now. They're going backwards, making room for the hunt. Don't go too far, vultures. Stay close by. There you go. You can see them flying. Beautiful silhouette of them. Off they go. That was probably a male and a female, I would assume. Beautiful. Actually, not doing too badly in the wind. I thought they would have been blown around a bit more. There's the other one, and the lions. All the animals in one shot, and the wildebeest. Triple threat, there we go. What's going to happen next? The lionesses are sleeping. I cannot believe this. I'm disappointed in you lot. Pick your heads up and show the world what incredible animals you really are. Because at the moment you're not doing a very good job at doing so. Tina, I think you're wondering whether the wildebeest have crossed the river yet. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe they've just, actually I don't know, because they don't look wet at all, but they could have crossed maybe earlier this morning and they've dried off. I don't know if they've come from the triangle and to the side, or if they've just been down here the whole time. Maybe they crossed the Sand River a few days ago and they've just been mulling around in this area. It's a bit difficult to say. The wildebeest that I saw crossing this morning are long gone. They went into the triangle. They crossed out of the reserve and into one of the conservancies. But maybe they're heading to Tanzania. If they carry on going in the direction that they do, they're going to hit the Sand River fairly shortly, and the Sand River and the Mara River, and then they'll have to cross that to get to Tanzania. There's lots of wildebeest down that side as well. So everything is settled down for now. Lionesses are not showing too much interest just yet. Like I said, I think it's too soon to panic, so we won't go live just yet. Well, we are live, but live. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the Sabi sand with Tristan. And Tristan, I have a request for you. Tristan, please can you tell me a funny joke?
A funny joke, Tayla. Sure, I haven't heard a funny joke in quite some time, so I don't actually have too many. The best one for funny jokes is Byron. Byron tends to have them coming out of his ears and is constantly telling jokes around camp. The thing is though, because it's Byron that's talking, I very seldom am actually listening to what he's saying. No, I'm just joking. Oh, Byron is exercising and not telling any jokes. Yes, Byron, you've got to keep that physique in shape. Can't disappoint with those guns and those biceps. Now, there was a woodpecker that flew into this tree, and I'm just trying to have a look if I can find it. So into this knobthorn is a woodpecker. It was somewhere in the center of it. Now, I just want to try and find it with my binoculars before I try and tell Vildy where it went. Nope. I can't see it. Maybe it's on the other side of the tree itself. Sorry, Vim. But there was one that went in there. I couldn't see which woodpecker it was. It was just a woodpecker that came flying past. Now, Taylor McCurdy, I don't know. I'll have to think about a joke for you, a very good one that will make you entertained, because well, we all know we've got to keep Taylor Mack happy. I believe Taylor was in a very good mood this morning. She even said live that she was in an unusually good mood. Not that she's ever really that angry about life on drive. She typically is quite bubbly on drive, so I don't know what constitutes a good mood, but we'll have to try and keep her in a good mood and find some sort of joke. Maybe we can ask all of you for some funny jokes. Any of you guys that have some good one-liners or one sort of punchline jokes, then hashtag Safari Live and let's see what we've got. Maybe we can keep Taylor entertained as we go along. But it's otherwise very quiet this afternoon. It's now starting, just the edge of that sun is starting to kind of die down, and it's not as hot as what it was earlier. It's feeling a lot more comfortable, and I'm hoping now that some of the animals will start to slowly meander their way around and kind of walk and start to emerge from their shadowy hideouts that they've been in all day. If there's nothing down Ingwe Alley, because that's where we're going right now, then we're going to head on towards back to Hosana and then go and spend the last probably half of the show with him and just see what he gets up to. I believe he's moved a little bit since we were there. He's just moved on to the other side of the dam wall now. Maybe the shade wasn't quite what he was looking for, or you never know, maybe something came down that he attempted just to go after and missed, and that's why he's moved. But we'll slowly get that side and then sit with him for the remainder of the afternoon. We also have schools joining us this afternoon later, so it'll be nice to have a leopard for the schools, and with Taylor with the lions. Promises to be a wonderful sort of educational 45 minutes for those schools that will be joining us at that stage. But it is a beautiful day today. So I believe a lot of you are thinking about some funny jokes for Tayla Mac. It's not as easy as you think, as all of a sudden when you get put on the spot, jokes all of a sudden kind of disappear from your mind. It's one of those things where you have this situation where you'll think of a joke and you'll know it, and then as soon as you put on the spot about it, you kind of forget, and then you kind of have to think and sit there and you panic a little bit, and well, nothing comes to mind. Ali wants to know, what do you call a pile of cats? And well, the answer is, for Tayla McCurdy, the Meountain. So there's actually, I've seen that one before, and it was a kind of little cartoon clip of all these cats piled up on top of each other, and so I quite like that one. It's cute and good for, especially for kids, and I'm sure Tayla Mac will laugh about it. Now, we have had some rain recently, and on the other side of that puddle there is a little clump of mud, which unfortunately was Herbie's elephant when we did a mud making, well, an animal making sort of session with James, myself, and who was it? I can't remember. Right in the middle there, Vildy, on the other side, there's like a little round ball of mud. So that's all that remains, unfortunately, from Herbie's elephant. Somebody stood on it and broke off the elephant's face, unfortunately, which is not ideal. But I can't remember who else was with us. It was myself and James. And who was the third one? Jamie. Jamie was the other one, and Herbie. And we did some mud making of elephants. It was complete flop from myself. I tried to make a wild dog, which wasn't very good. Its tail fell off. Its head eventually fell off. It really didn't go well. But Herbie won the day. He built us a very cool... Was it... No, Herbie had a rhino, didn't he? Or was it Jamie had a rhino? Jamie had a rhino, and Herbie built the elephant. And James built a pangolin. And I think the pangolin is still floating around somewhere near the garages. I know it drove around on one of the vehicles for a few days and eventually then fell off at the garage and has then sat there ever since. So at least Herbie's has stood the test of time until a rather large animal seems to have stood on the front end of that when it was still soft. So there went Herbie's elephant, unfortunately. The reason why I'm driving this particular section as well, it's also a good place for our spotted friends, but it's also a nice area for elephants. It's quite dense, thick. There's a few sort of big shady trees that run along a drainage section here. Also a good place for things like giraffe, kudu. So it's a nice drive. It's scenic as well, and I know Scott loves this particular section as well. So Stephen, you're saying, why are elephants wrinkled? And the answer to this is because they do not sit on ironing boards. Oh, guys, we are scratching the depths of corny jokes at the moment. I feel like we need to come up with some real crackers. So Megan says I started it. No. I did not start any such thing. I was baited by Tayla McCurdy. She has started the corny jokes for the afternoon, and so it cannot be put on my shoulders. The blame does not lie squarely with me. I've just opened it up to everybody so that we can all enjoy our corny jokes together, but it's most certainly the blame cannot lie squarely with just me. I think Tayla's got to accept the majority of this responsibility for where this drive is now going to go and all the kind of humor that we're going to have over the next little bit. Of course, we're going to have to feed Tayla a whole bunch of them as we go, so her next segment must just be filled with all kinds of jokes that people have told. Well, that's what I think anyway. Right, nothing on Ingwe Ali, nothing Twin Dams, nothing Terrapin. Let's head back towards Hosana and go and spend the afternoon with him. Hopefully we'll adopt a different approach, and that's going to be the approach of things must come and find us. It's worked for us before, and so we're going to try and do it again. It's also much cooler now, so hopefully Hosana will start to wake up a little bit, and we'll see him at least being a little bit active and providing us with some sort of entertainment. Viam was actually telling me about Shadow's cub and how live, which is fantastic to hear, and particularly because it's going to need to learn a lot about hyenas and how to be able to work that out and deal with them and survive them, and so it's good practice to have that many hyenas around to kill, and for Shadow to have been around to just monitor what's been going on. So really cool to see, and I hope that little cub does do very, very well over the next little bit.